welcome to Quarantini Time, a show about having great conversations with friends while sharing delicious beverages. I'm your host, Laura Glorso-McCabe. Some of you might know tonight's guest as half of the best-selling band Stephen John. Some of you might know him from his hit films such as Dr. Agrippina and Money Shot, a Hockumentary. And others may just know him as an all-around good guy. Please welcome my guest, John Knauff. All right. Hi, John. Welcome to Quarantini Time.
Thanks. It's really great to be here, Laura. Thanks for having me on.
Glad we're sharing our martinis tonight.
Yep.
What is your, what's the recipe for your perfect martini?
Take some vodka, take some ice, take a splash of vermouth and wave it over the martini shaker, and then shake it with ice, and then put it on a cup like this. So there. It's basically vodka.
So you're not a dirty martini fan?
No. Every once in a while, it depends on the mood. So, every once in a while, I'm in the mood for a dirty martini. But tonight, I thought I'd go more on the clear side.
Very nice.
Yep.
So I know you're a big movie buff. What was the last movie you saw in the theater?
Last movie I saw in the theater? Ooh, that's a good one. Typically, I went to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, actually.
Great movie.
It was a great movie. It's Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors of all time. And we have a local film theater up here. It's called the Sea Film Festival, or Sea Film. And it's just like this, like little private, theater. And they actually showed it in 35 millimeter film, which was the way Quentin Tarantino had designed to have that movie. So it was awesome. We went to see that, and then my son wanted to go see it. So we went to it and saw it in the digital version. Both versions were great. The movie definitely is Quentin Tarantino at its finest.
So were there any Oscar snubs that you thought were out there at all?
I don't really put too much credence in Oscar snubs. I just know what I like and what performances are good and, what I respect and, those kind of things. So, if you get, and I'm sure people that win them, are just like, yeah, I got an Oscar, but, some of them are deserved and some of them, think about who votes for the Oscars, right? It's the motion picture academy,
True.
It's like the fast food association voting for McDonald's as their favorite restaurant,
Oh.
I don't really pay too much attention to the Oscars, but I'll watch them when they happen.
Have you been binge watching anything since this whole stay at home?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have been binge watching several things. Number one, there's a show that came on AMC several years back called Mad Men. It's a series about Madison Avenue executives back in the 50s, and I just love it because the main character is your typical flawed anti-hero, but you always want him to succeed. But just how well they captured the period of the late 50s, early 60s, and how they interweave real history with the fiction part. It's pretty amazing. And so I've been watching that. So Ozark is another one of our favorites. So I don't know if you've ever seen Ozark.
I have not watched that one yet.
It's a pretty great show. Very suspenseful, very violent. But Karen's my wife, by the way. She and I had binge watched the first 2 seasons, and season 3 just started this past week. So we're gonna binge watch on that.
So how has your life changed since this whole stay-at-home order?
Interestingly enough, I had worked several jobs where, and I work in the learning and development, the adult learning and development business. Thanks. I gotta have a little drink here too before I get into that. So I used to work for a company that was 100% work from home. And I reported to a guy who was, his office was in the Chicago office. I never met him. Back then too, it was like pre-video. We never would get on video conferences. So I reported to several people who I never met. And conversely, I had several people that reported to me that never met me. So virtual is not, or working from home has never really affected me to the positive and to the negative. I am definitely a people person. I love human moments. I could not work from home all the time. I got to have those engagements. But I think it really gave me more an appreciation of just, no matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, people still need, that's a song, people who need people.
All right, Barbara.
But I just think it goes to show, no matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, you still need people in your lives, even though you may be as happy as whatever, staying at home and away from people. To give you an example, so yesterday, our neighborhood decided to put together a socially distant happy hour outside. So we got all of our chairs, we spaced them out like 10, 15 feet apart. And we had about 6 or 7 people out there. And we had this one couple that lives across the street from us who are, we love them dearly, but they're both introverts, very quiet, but they always come to our social things. They saw we were sitting out there and boom, they came in and just were like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? What's happening? Very
Yes.
chatty, so it kind of gives me going back to your question, how's it changed me? It hasn't really changed me much. It just makes me more appreciate, those human moments more, but also those people who really need those human moments and hope they get them when they need them.
Yeah, missing people is the hardest part right now. The
Mm-hmm.
virtualness is nice, and I love being around my wife and kid all the time.
Yeah.
But man, I miss people.
Oh yeah. That's the other challenge too, is being sequestered with your partner or your wife or husband. I think it's one of the things that tip that I've been sharing with people is, even though you may be cohabitating and doing your job, I would suggest you start off in the first on the top floor, you go to the bottom floor, maybe meet for lunch, if that, then separate, and then come together at the end of the day. And it gives you something to talk about instead of, oh, you were really bothering me on that conference call. Why didn't you just shut up, And, oh, let me tell you what about happened on this time. Oh, I already heard it because I was just behind you, You got to have those things to come together about, I had a really bad day, I had a really good day, I had a success, I had a failure, just to stay separate, and then come together at the end of the day, just like you would in a normal office. So that's my tip. That's free.
That is some very sage advice. Thank you, Mr. Knauff.
Mm-hmm.
So my most hard-hitting question of the night:
Okay.
Will there ever be another Steve John album?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I'm a fledgling songwriter, and I have a good friend. His name is Steve Smith, and we used to play in bands together, but we used to work together, and we wrote an album. It was called Fun and Games. We put it on Spotify, and I think the royalties that we got from that, and it's been on Spotify for 10 years, Laura. And the royalties that we get from that are probably enough to refresh my bottle of vodka to make more martinis in here.
It's probably every time I listen to it on Spotify.
And thank you for that 0.00005 cents. Okay, I really appreciate that.
You are more than welcome.
But Steve and I get together. We've recorded a couple songs after the album. We talk about it. He's busy in his life. I'm busy in mine. At some point, I can guarantee you that we'll do another Steve and John album. So thanks for asking.
I love it. All right. Well, I'm a huge fan of James Lipton. I heard that you also enjoyed the questionnaire at the end of Inside the Actor Studio. So I made up my own version, borrowing some from James, adding in some COVID-19 questions. Are you ready to get it started?
I'm ready. Let's go for the rapid round here.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is hug.
That's a good one.
And I don't know why. It just I have 2 grandkids and they are super big huggers. I'm a big hugger. My dad was a big hugger, not in a creepy way, okay? But just, and the reason it is kind of to me is because, my father, and I don't know if you knew this, Laura, but he's a retired Lutheran minister. And he used to deliver his service. And at the end of the service, he used to wave at the back of the church while people filed out. And people would wait in line just to get a hug from my dad. And they wouldn't leave the church to get it because he was a great hugger and he loved people, and that kind of thing. And, so I'm a big hugger and my wife got my wife's family. So my favorite word is hug. It means a lot to me.
I like that. So what would be your least favorite word?
No.
Yeah, that's one of mine too.
I'm kidding. That's not it's an appropriate word to use in appropriate circumstances. So I can't say that it's not my favorite word. It's just, I'm high in the ADHD spectrum, and no is one way to that's not going to get my way. Well, there you go. So, but my some of my I hate business acronyms. Hey, when you're in a meeting and you hear somebody say, hey, we're going to put a pin in that, or we're going to pump the brakes on that idea. I cannot stand that. And when something catches on, one of those phrases, and then you hear another person saying it again, it's like, oh, come on, really? So I guess you could say any business slang, if you say, are my least favorite.
Who would you most like to be in a stay-at-home order quarantine with? Dead, alive, in the whole world, fictional?
Oh, Barack Obama.
There you go.
Barack Obama, number one, I could learn some great leadership techniques from him. Number two, we could have a good conversation. But number three, I have a basketball hoop in the back of my house, and I love to play ball. So I bet you we could get a good game of one-on-one and get some sweat in. And then he would be cordial to say, John, I've spent enough time with you today. I'm going to let you go so you could spend time with your family and not make me feel bad about it.
You'd get smoked in basketball, though, right?
I would get smoked at basketball, no doubt, because I'm a terrible athlete, but I love athletics. But yeah, it'd probably be Barack Obama.
So who would be your least favorite person to be in a stay-at-home order with? Should we just skip over that?
I think you would know the answer to that. If you know anything about me, Laura, you probably know the answer to that one.
I think it's been the answer for the past 2 episodes.
Yes. There's one that I could not, yes. I don't really talk a lot about politics, but in the current situation, that would be one. So,
well, what would your favorite curse word be going right past that?
Fuck, for sure. It's interchangeable with anything, oh my fucking God, get the fuck out of here. Unfucking believable, you can use it in so many, you can insert that in so many different circumstances and environments. So it's maybe it's not my favorite one, but it's one that I say, maybe not out loud all the time either. I'll think it, it depends if there's kids around and, my parents and,
There's no bleeping on this show, John. I put a little disclaimer on the description.
Fuck yeah.
What sound or noise do you love?
Ooh, sound or noise that I love. Oh, the waves of the ocean. I grew up on the East Coast where there's plenty of beach, and Karen and I, we love, our Hawaii place. And there's nothing more comforting than the subtle waves as they crash onto the beach and wail off. And I love that. That's one of my favorite sounds of all. So.
Well, what sound or noise do you hate?
Do you want to hear the most annoying sound? I was going to say when I was a kid, it used to be fireworks. I used to get really terrified of fireworks as they were going off in the background, and used to cover my ears and things like that. But since then I've outgrown that. I'd say the bigger the boom, the better. But there's very few sounds that I think every sound is kind of interesting. I'm definitely an audio-based person, so there's not really a sound that really gets on my nerves, really.
If you could only have one type of food during this stay-at-home time, what would it be?
Sushi.
Oh, I figured it.
Sushi upon sushi. I could eat sushi 7 days a week and never get sick of it.
You might get sick from it.
I might get sick from it. I might get sick from it, but I wouldn't get sick of it. So it would definitely be sushi.
Well, what profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
There's several that I've always wanted to be. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a rock star, or not rock star. I wanted to be a musician. And I did come to be a musician to some degrees, but I think for me, I always wanted to be an athlete. I always wanted to play sports, but I got my, and this is no offense, Dad, I know you're going to be watching this, but my dad, taught me to appreciate sports, and I tried out for sports, but I was terrible. I was third string on everything. And, there was one race when I was running, it was a 880 relay. I forgot to run the last lap and I didn't know it. I thought I was winning, but the one thing, I guess, if you could say, if you had to have a profession and do anything you want, I like to try my hand at acting. I think I would be really, really bad at it. I think I could be no other character than to be me, a 50-year-old grandfather of 2 grandkids, who has a general appreciation and zest for life. Love to throw the bottle back a little bit, but I would like to try that at some point. But if I die tomorrow and don't get to do it, my life has been good.
So what other profession besides yours would you not like to do?
Anything where it's routine and repetition, I just don't like it. Goes to the ADHD thing. I just don't like to do the same thing over. And even in my current position, and if I have to do something, a project, and it's over and over and over, I just get weary of it. So not necessarily a job. I mean, I look at the guys who pick up our compost, and they get to ride this really cool truck, and it's got this arm and a tracking mechanism that picks up the garbage cans, lifts them automatically, and then throws the compost in there. And those guys just like, it's almost like a video. I would like to try that. I think that'd be really, really cool,
I love watching them in the mornings.
I have a great respect. I mean, it's a hard work, to do that. Particularly, in this day and age, you never know what contains the virus and what doesn't. So I have a really great appreciation for any of those guys.
Well, last question.
All right.
If heaven exists, what would you like God to say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Nice try, Knauff. Get to the back of the line. I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not very religious, but I am spiritual. I do happen to think that there is a heaven for us, and, if God greets me at the pearly gates, I think it would be just like, let's go see, my brother recently died and I'd like to go see him. And my mom passed away several years. I'd like to go see her. And I hope it would be like, let's go visit your family, let's get to it. And then I would say, can I bring my martini with me?
Well, thank you very much, John, for being on the show tonight.
Oh, Laura, it's a true pleasure. I'm so glad you're doing this. And anytime to have a Quarantini with you is my pleasure. So cheers.
Next time in person.
Indeed. Blink.